Hey everybody, Danielle here, back live with you for week 2 of my 4-week challenge to myself in celebration of 4 years of running thesedge.org. So it's pretty wild that yes, it has been in the world for 4 years. And if you didn't catch any of the live streams last week, what I'm doing is every day for the next 3 weeks now, because last week I did it every day, is to hop on live with you guys on this page and talk about lessons learned over the first 4 years. And so how I'm doing it is hashtag 4 years in 4 weeks. Last week, I talked all about lessons learned in year 1. This week, we're moving on to lessons learned in year 2, and so on. So it was really fun last week, and I was sharing a little bit about how there's so many lessons to learn as you go through your business. And what's interesting is that sometimes you forget to stop and reflect back and think about what worked, what didn't work that well, what were you actually going through at each stage, and what stuck with you. How have those experiences shaped your decisions as you move forward? And so if you have been running your business for a short period of time or a long period of time, I would encourage you to do this exercise as well. You don't have to go on live stream like I've decided to do. But I think there's a lot of value in reflecting backwards and using that information, taking that time to integrate it as you move forward. And that's one philosophy that is outlined in, so Len and I actually just opened for sale a planner that we use, an annual planner to track your activities, your goals, and make sure that you're on track to reach that impact, that big dream impact that you want to create in the world. And that's one of the key things that we do in the planner as well, is look back, then look forward, and readjust as you go. So that's kind of what I'm doing now in these 4 weeks in kind of a bigger, more public way. But I think even just on your own, it's a great exercise to do as well. So today I want to look back on year 2. So that was about end of May, June from 2014 to end of May, June in 2015. And yeah, this year was a tough year, I would say, being that in the first year, and again, you can go back on this page and watch the other live streams to learn more about lessons learned in year 1. But the second year was my first year back in Canada. So after, the big excitement of moving to another continent where everybody speaks a different language and where I was meeting entrepreneurs from all over the world, that was a really exciting time. There was a lot of decisions and growth in the Sedge and, finding our footing, finding our purpose. And in the last live stream, I spoke about collaboration in the context of co-founder relationships or leadership teams. And today I want to still talk about collaboration, but on a bit of a different side of the equation, which is when you are connecting with other partners, other groups, other organizations or individuals who have similar goals as you and want to reach out to do something together, or whether you reach out to them or they reach out to you. There's that collaboration of different entities, right? So it's kind of a different style of collaboration from co-founding relationships, and a lot of the same things apply, but I want to tell you about one of mine, which happened in the second year in business. And before I get into the story, it's no surprise that I have multiple collaboration stories to share with you guys, because that's been a big part of my journey. And learning how to do partnerships better and do it effectively and really build off of the strengths of other people in my community and peers in my community as well. And that, of course, some of these experiences is exactly why later in the story, Solène and I wrote a book about collaborating, especially for social entrepreneurs and change makers. So you can definitely check that out for all the details. But today I want to share my one collaboration story that is the biggest failure in collaboration that I've had. Normally, I think I tend to naturally work well with people, just because of my personality. I'm somewhat easygoing, but not afraid to stand up for myself or what I'm thinking. And that tends to be a good sweet spot for working with other people. However, there are still some things that can derail a project. And that's what I want to talk about today. And part of the reason this collaboration fell flat was because it was in my second year of business. And the first year had a lot of turmoil and excitement, and there was a lot of change. In the second year, I moved back home. There was some transition in my personal life in terms of getting settled again and, figuring out the lay of the land in terms of living again in a new place, in a familiar place, but still getting all set up again. Find your home, get your home organized, and get my partner settled and all of that. So I think that contributed to it. So if you're not as clear on your own purpose or vision or exactly the path you're on, collaboration opportunities can definitely derail your path, right? So in my case, I had run a pilot already of the Boost Academy program, which was the first course that I ran through the Sedge. And I'll talk more about that later in the week. But I was still feeling a bit like, where exactly is this going? How can I continue building off of the success we've already had? And what is that going to look like? So I was definitely in a stage where it could have gone in a few different directions. So when I was approached by a local nonprofit to run a workshop series with them, I thought, oh, that's great. Like, they want to work with social entrepreneurs as well. They have the same goal of building capacity. And I haven't worked locally yet, so this will be awesome, and I'm so excited to do it. So all of that was great, but we ran into some challenges in terms of style and approach, and even the content that we wanted to teach. So here's my lessons for you guys. When you're looking at a new partnership, and a lot of this, like I said, is covered in the book, Meeting of the Minds, it's so important to not just have that initial conversation where an idea is presented and you guys both go, yes, that sounds really good. Like, it sounds like we're on the same page. Let's do it. That's usually how the first conversation goes, and you feel pretty comfortable to move forward. But I encourage you to have a second conversation before you dive into the planning, into the action steps. And that would be to talk about some of these big questions about who you want to serve, what are you aiming to say to them, what is the message and the goal of the project, like what is the outcome, why are you both wanting to do this project on your own, and why do you want to do it together, and how are you going to do it? So I'm going to talk about each of those in a little bit more detail, and then give you my top suggestion that if you're working with someone brand new who you've never worked with before, you absolutely have to do this one thing, and you can skip it to your own at your own risk, let's say. And sometimes, yes, it'll work out, but I really encourage you to do this one thing because you lose nothing and you gain everything. You have the opportunity to prevent damage before it happens. Okay, so let's go over each of those 4 things that I think you should talk about in your second meeting. So after you're excited to work together, now you want to get into kind of the high-level strategy before you get into the planning and into the action taking, right? So who do you want to serve? Ask the other person to share, like, who is your ideal person to be a part of this thing, whatever we're creating together? Who do you want on the other end? And then you can share your perspective. So sometimes it will be the same person, which is great. That's your green check mark to keep moving ahead. But you might realize after you go a bit deeper into the layers that, okay, social entrepreneurs, that's a pretty narrow type of person, but there could still be a different type of person within that group. And in my case, the group that I was working with did have a bit of a different type of social entrepreneur in mind, more coming from the activism and social justice side, which is wonderful. Those people are great, and some of them are in my community for sure. But we didn't necessarily have, and this is how it ties into the rest of it in terms of the content and the message, is that type of audience the ideal person for me to reach out to and to spend time with as well, with the messages that I have to share? And of course, there's overlap, but you want to find as close of a match as you can, right? So that's one question. The second question, the what, the message. Obviously, this needs to be very aligned, or if it's going to be different, you need to be aware of that, right? So what happened in my case is we kind of skipped all these questions that I'm recommending you guys have this conversation with each other. And it wasn't until we were already in, like, deep into it, and this was, I think, a five workshop commitment. So it was 5 Saturday afternoons in the middle of summer. So giving up 5 weekends of going to the mountains, which is fine as long as it's a good fit and is, really going to benefit everybody involved, not just myself and my business, but the other organization, and of course, all the people that we're inviting to be a part of it with us. All so important. So what is the message? And one thing we found as we got into it, bringing our teaching together, was there was a disconnect on some of the messages, right? So, some of the things I felt pretty strongly about, how I wanted to share ideas or stories or my messages as it connected into the bigger project, the partner didn't necessarily see eye to eye and didn't want that to be shared. So if that is the case, then you can really find yourself in a position where you aren't sharing your authentic message, and it's either being squashed or, I don't want to say underappreciated, because everybody can have their own message. But if you're working together, you really want that alignment, or to be aware of where the differences are so that it's something that's going to be productive and helpful for the audience, not confusing or leaving any party feeling like they're not being heard or not being able to contribute in the way they thought they were going to. So that's a big one. The third deeper question, this high-level strategy to talk about, is the why. So you as an individual or your organization, what is your motivation for being part of this partnership, this project, this collaboration? And ask them what's theirs and why did they reach out to you? Where is that give and take? And is there a true give and take? Because if they're just wanting to work with you as extra hands on deck or something like that, you need to know that, because maybe that's going to be a fit for you, but maybe not. And as long as everybody's on the same page, it can work great. But you need to have that question, ask that question. Why did you want to work with me? And why are you working on this project as a whole? Like, where is it contributing to your overall strategy? And you share your purpose, your why as well for that project. And then you can really get a sense of, okay, are we aligned, or is there a bit of a disconnect here? And I just want to say hi because we have a few people live, so thanks for watching. If you want to say hi in the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from, that's awesome. If not, you can just lurk around if you like. That's cool too. Just gonna have some water here. Okay, and the fourth deep question that I want you to talk about before you start taking any project planning steps is how. How are you going to do this? So it's one thing if you align on the audience, the message, the purpose, but if you have different ideas of how you want to execute it, you may run into problems. So it's okay to each have your own perspective on that, but you need to talk about it before you decide to work together to make sure that it's going to work for everybody and that it's, something you can get excited about. So those are the four main things I want you to talk about. And then here's the one most important thing you have to do with any new partner or collaboration, and that is have a baby project together first. Please do not jump into a 5-weekend workshop series together without having worked together at least on one baby project that you're actually executing together. So this is more than just the talking, the planning, the meeting. Even after you talk about those 4 questions, the who, the what, the why, and the how, don't think that that is enough to go into a big project together. I really want to challenge you to come up with one slice or even the first step of what that collaboration could look like and work on that together first and say, let's try it out. We're aligned on a lot of things, and we know that this could have a lot of potential to grow our impact and achieve these goals that we have collectively and individually. But why don't we just take the first step or take a slice of that and do that first and see how it goes. And this, I cannot tell you how much time and kind of heartache this could save you. And since that time that I'm telling you about, the poor collaboration, this is something I've always made sure I do when working with new people. And, haven't really had a baby project where I went, okay, no, I don't think I really want to move forward. But at least it gives you that confidence to move forward, and you know that you're going to be a good fit together. And it doesn't hurt anything, because why not take step one of that larger project, test it out together, and then go from there. And it gives you a check-in opportunity too, right? So one thing I talked about on Friday last week was having these regular check-ins with your co-founders on, hey, is this working for you? Do you feel good about this? Are we on the same page? And by starting with a baby project with your new partner, your new collaborator, whoever that is, that gives you an automatic check-in. Okay, how did that go? Did we both feel like we worked well together? Were we communicating well? How was the outcome? Did we achieve what we thought we were going to achieve? Where did the ball drop? And is that a one-time problem, or do we think it's going to happen again? Is this a work fit style problem, or is that something we can learn from and do better next time? So it gives you that automatic check-in to decide, yes, that was great, let's keep moving forward and make our larger work plan, or no, that didn't really work, let's kind of part ways and figure out a different way to move forward that might not be together. So that's my advice. Definitely do a baby project. And I've given that advice to a few other people, not just in our book, but more, personal relationships. And it's really served them well in terms of like, Danielle, I'm so glad you recommended I just start with that first step, because if we had committed to a larger project, I would have realized I wouldn't have been able to follow through, because we didn't work well together, or it wasn't what I expected, or, I realized we have different goals, or whatever that is. There's a lot of reasons why your collaboration could end at the baby project, but that's okay. Then and you learned a lot from it. So that's mostly what I wanted to share. I could actually talk about collaboration all day long, and I have more questions that I could chat about, but I think I'll leave it at that for now, because I'm sure some of these lessons learned will creep their way into the rest of my Facebook Lives over the next couple weeks, because like I said, collaboration is a big piece of what I like to work on and think about and use as a tool, as a super strength in my own business. So that was it for that. And for the rest of this week, I'll talk more about lessons learned in year 2. So I mentioned briefly at the beginning, year 2 of this Edge did include the pilot of our first educational program. So I'm going to talk about that, as well as, I forget what the other ones are, but I have a lot more planned. So I hope you tune in for the next couple days. And yeah, if you like this video and you thought it had some value, you go ahead and share it, because you know what? No matter what industry your friends or family work in, collaboration and, creating projects with people you haven't worked with before is a huge part of running, either your own business or even working in a company or whatever it might be. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. And yeah, have a great day, and we'll talk soon, okay? Bye.